right, now to our breaking news story we're following. In Arizona, investigators are examining a new message related to the possible abduction of Nancy Guthrie. The 84-year-old mother of Savannah Guthrie disappeared from her home 6 days ago. A ransom demand shared with the FBI earlier this week contained an initial deadline for Thursday and a second one for Monday. A statement released by the Pima County Sheriff reads, quote, "The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department are aware of a new message regarding Nancy Guthrie. Investigators are actively inspecting the information provided in the message for its authenticity." No details yet from authorities on the contents of that message, but it comes after Savannah Guthrie shared a video of her brother Cameron urging whoever took Nancy to contact the family. So I want to bring in Jeff Harp, a former FBI agent, to talk more about this. So Jeff, let's talk about this new message. How do you think investigators are working to verify the authenticity of it and ensure that it's actually coming from the same sender as the initial demand?
Well, there's so many sophisticated ways to disguise your IP address, even go through some of the dark web content. So I'm sure they're looking at that and they're trying to make a determination whether it is actually valid and real. I have been watching a lot of the news footage today, and it does appear as though the FBI has gone back to the house and they're looking for something. So maybe there was something specific in that new note that the FBI is going back to verify. I'm suspect of a lot of things that are going on just because the fact there's people can get access to so many things through technology that they can find ways to manipulate data and look at photographs and come up with conclusions that can mislead the family. I really hope this is the real deal so they can at least make some progress on getting a proof of life.
Yeah, so the search for Nancy is now on day 6. So what stands out to you so far? And then what elements of this case maybe seem unusual to you?
Well, and so it's interesting. If you look back at the initial release of the crime scene, it happened pretty quickly. Then you saw law enforcement go back in and re-secure the crime scene, maybe based on some information that they obtained or just collaborating together. You know, always when you get all these law enforcement heads together and collaborate, ideas come to fruition of like, you know what, I didn't think about that. And so they probably went back and looked at some things. And now we have a new letter, and there may be information obtained in that letter that the general public doesn't know, and really nobody would know unless they were at the residence.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so many things behind the scenes that we don't know, and for good reason. So let's talk about some of the messages released from the family. We had one from Savannah and her sister, and then her brother Cameron yesterday. Do you think that might be another crucial element, hearing from the family again?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a plea. And, I keep listening to some of the experts talk about, the way this investigation sort of unfolding. There's not a playbook for kidnapping, and they don't have to follow a set of rules. So I think we got to be very careful about what we think what direction this investigation's heading in. And I think we have to keep all options open. I know there's some very sophisticated technical capabilities that the Bureau and other law enforcement they're not talking about. And I think once they get a chance to dissect some of that really sophisticated technical stuff, we're going to see a little more activity happen.
I asked another former NYPD investigator about the sophistication. You bring up that word, and he kind of ended our conversation saying, I think this is amateur hour. Where do you stand on that in terms of who we might be dealing with?
Well, it could be amateur hour, but here's what I would be looking at. So anytime you drive through a neighborhood and you have a Wi-Fi device, your Wi-Fi device is constantly looking for some place to connect to, and sometimes it will connect. And depending upon who has Wi-Fi in that neighborhood, they certainly could go door to door, which they're doing. I see they're going door to door, and they could look at devices that were trying to connect to these routers. These routers have a history, and so that sort of information becomes really critical and important, especially when you start looking at devices that were trying to connect to routers during that sort of hour or two they're looking at.
Jeff Harp, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and we'll circle back with you.